Welcome to a new episode of In the Hot Seat with Steve Emery. Steve is our Vice President of Supply Chain and Global Procurement. Steve, welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us today.
It's good to be here.
You're a big soccer fan.
I am.
Who's your favorite team and why are they your favorite team?
Oh, I grew up in Portsmouth in the UK, so Portsmouth are my number one team. I got a very soft spot for Manchester United as well because my wife's from Manchester. And I spent a lot of time going to see her, specifically when Manchester United were playing at home. And yeah, I got to see Manchester United in the glory years. So I got a soft spot for them.
That's great. And by the way, for those of you who are watching on video, if you didn't see, his face lit right up when he got to talk about football, not soccer, football. Yeah. Steve, how would you describe the culture at ATS?
ATS has always had great people and we've always worked hard. But I think that the influence of ABM, and particularly the focus, we talk about people, then process, then performance, and I think the people are the biggest asset, and the continuous improvement over time, it works on all three of those core values.
Steve, when you talk to young future leaders, how do you articulate to them what success looks like at ATS, and how do you help them to make an impact at ATS?
I think that at ATS, we make it particularly easy because we have ABM and we have our value drivers. There's so many pressures on us, so many things that we do, so many things that we can do, and we've all got to make decisions about how we can most impact the value drivers. And I think it's a great way to position things and help people understand what's important in the business.
What's your favorite book and why?
I've just finished reading Leading by Sir Alex Ferguson.
Okay.
And bringing it back to Manchester United and football again. But it was a really interesting book because he's written an autobiography and he's written books on the game, on soccer. And in this book, Leading, he's written a book on leadership. And he was asked to give talks on leadership earlier in his career. And his initial response was, but I'm a football guy, I don't know about leadership. But then in the book, he talks about his approach to leadership, just purely from his experience. And 80% of the book, he talks about people. He talks about the people that he worked with. He talks about his players, the people in the club structure, the owners of the club. And he's always talking about what motivates people and how he can influence people and how people are the driver of the success in the business. He talks very little about process in terms of developing soccer players, but he does touch on it. And he talks even less about performance because it speaks for itself. He's the most successful manager in Premier League history. But the way he breaks down leadership, like as a business leader, it draws a lot of parallels. And of course, it's football, so a subject that I enjoy reading about.
That's a great example.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Steve, when people first meet you or they know you, what are they most surprised to find out about you?
I think one of the things about me probably not too many people know is that I once attended the International Space University, or ISU, when I was working in the space business. And it's a fantastic university course which teaches you about all aspects of space. I mean, I was an engineer in the space industry and I thought engineering was pretty much it, but we learned about architecture, about resources in space, about space policy and law, what's legal and not legal to do in space, and all sorts of areas. And the student group was a body of 130 people from 30 different countries. And I absolutely in awe of the people there. Some of the students were training to be astronauts in their future. Actually, Buzz Aldrin was one of the tutors there.
Really?
And yeah, and by the way, this was a time, I'm going to age myself now, but we were closer to the moon landings at that time than we were to the pandemic. So give you some idea of the timing of it. But phenomenal course. But one of the real takeaways from it was the diversity of the people and how impressive the people were, and the diversity coming together on our projects. It was a time that before we started talking about diversity as much as we rightly do now, but it was my first real lesson in in diversity and the power of it. You've always been a good advocate for supply chain. What is it you see in supply chain that's important to the business?
So when Steve and I talk, what I will often frame up is we have to utilize supply chain as a competitive advantage, not just a discussion point. And so when I look at competitive advantages, it's tied to the customer. It's tied to alignment to outpacing your competition. It's tied to setting the business up to really be successful and achieve its aspirations. So whether it's, and the easy ones, cost control, on-time delivery, highest level of quality, these are all basic table stakes. But really that enablement to drive success in your business, in your targeted areas, to really impact your customers. That's how I think about supply chain. And so to me, it's not just managing the supply base, it's really utilizing the supply chain to take share, to really drive your competitive advantage. And so that's how I think about supply chain.
Right.
Thank you very much for being a part of this.
Thank you, Andrew.
Really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us on this episode of In the Hot Seat with Steve Emery. Stay safe and goodbye for now.